Shabbat Shalom again. Turns out my stream is cut off at 52 minutes. I didn't realize that. So I'm going to continue from where I left off. So I was talking about how Passover in the year, what year? What year was that? It was supposed to happen on a Tuesday. While according to the rabbinic calendar, most of the Jews use today would take place on a Thursday, Passover on that year. I think that's the year Yeshua was crucified, if I'm not mistaken. So according to the Exilarch, the setting of Passover on Tuesday was dictated by concern to avoid visibility of the new moon before the first day of the month. They wanted to avoid visibility. Okay, this concern does not exist in the present day rabbinic calendar. Once discovered and published in 1922, the Exilarch's letter proved beyond doubt that almost 500 years after Rabbi Yosei and Hillel the Patriarch, then the fixed calendar in its present-day form had still not been instituted. That's an important point. Rabbinic tradition, an enactment which proved of incalculable benefit to his co-religionists, of his own, and of subsequent generations. Okay, that didn't even make any sense to me. I just read it and I don't know what it meant. So the tradition of the rabbis gives to him, Hillel, I'm guessing, an enactment which proved was beneficial to his cohorts, of his own. Okay, so what was that tradition? The Jewish calendar's lunar months are synchronized with the phases of the moon, but its average year length approximates the mean length of a solar year. The purpose of the latter is to ensure that the festivals, all of which occur on fixed dates of the lunar months, are also observed each year in the seasons that are designated for them in the Bible. To ensure the former, occasional intercalations of a day in a month were required. To ensure the latter, occasional intercalations of an extra month in a year were required. So they're adding days, and they're also adding months. These intercalations were determined at meetings of a special committee of the Sanhedrin, but Constantius II, following the precedents of Hadrian, prohibited the holding of such meetings as well as the vending of articles for distinctly Jewish purposes. Maybe I should turn a light on. Hold on. That helps. Not that this is a visual video, but some people like have a little bit of visual stimulation. So the entire Jewish community outside the land of Israel depended on the calendar that was sanctioned by the Judean Sanhedrin. This was necessary for the unified observance of the Jewish holidays. However, danger threatened the participants in that sanction and the messengers who communicated their decisions to distant congregations. Temporarily, to relieve the foreign congregations, Huna ben Abin once advised Rava not to wait for the official intercalation. When you are convinced that the winter quarter will extend beyond the 16th day of Nisan, the first month, declare the year a leap year and do not hesitate. And there's a reference there, RH 21a. But as the religious persecutions continued, Hillel decided to provide an authorized calendar for all time to come, though by doing so he severed the ties which united the Jews of the diaspora to their mother country and to the patriarchate. So that's a big change. I hope the lighting is whatever. The Emperor Julian the Apostate was gracious to Hillel, whom he honored on a number of occasions. In an autograph letter to him, Julian assured him of his friendship and promised to ameliorate further the condition of the Jews. Before setting out for the war with Persia, Julian addressed to the Jewish congregations a circular letter in which he informed them that he had committed the Jewish tax rolls to the flames, and that, desiring to show them still greater favors, he has advised his brother, the venerable patriarch Julos, to abolish what was called the sand tax. It was because of Constantine and Hadrian that Hillel formed the calculated calendar. Oh, really? I didn't even get that. How did that happen? Okay. Before this time, as you have just read, they were using the visible crescent moon to begin the month, as they always had, and still did, right up until Rambam instituted it. Even the tombstones of Zohar prove the statement true. That's an important piece of evidence, those tombstones. The problem Hillel had was to know when to add the 13th month in the Hebrew calendar, because they would soon not have anyone in the land to observe the barley, and whether or not it was ripe enough for the wave offering. So he turned to the mathematical works of Meton, a Greek astronomer. Okay, I have to rotate back. For astronomy and calendar studies, the Metonic cycle, or Ennead Decateris, from ancient Greek, which means 19 years, is a period of very close to 19 years that is remarkable for being nearly a common multiple of the solar year and the synodic or lunar month. See, this is what I was talking about. The previous newsletters, like for the last fortnight, were very much biographical and like a journal. This is what the newsletters are typically like, more informational, educational, and you can, it deepens your understanding of the biblical context and just history. It's really good anyway. So I'm really enjoying this newsletter. I hope you are too. The Greek astronomer Meton of Athens from the 5th century BC observed that a period of 19 years is almost exactly equal to 235 synodic months, and rounded to full days counts 6,940 days. The difference between the two periods of 19 years and 235 synodic months is only a few hours, depending on the definition of the year. Considering a year to be 1/19th of this 6,940-day cycle, it gives a year length of 365 plus a quarter plus 1/76th days. This is the unrounded cycle. Is much more accurate when you don't round it, which is slightly more than 12 synodic months. To keep a 12-month calendar, excuse me, to keep a 12-month lunar year in pace with the solar year, an intercalary 13th month would have to be added on 7 occasions during the 19-year period. So 235 equals 19 times 12 plus 7. When Meton, or Meton, I don't know how you pronounce it, when Meton introduced the cycle around 432 BC, it was already known by Babylonian astronomers. A mechanical computation of the cycle is built into the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient analog computer. Whoa. Designed to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for calendrical and astrological purposes, as well as the Olympiads, which are the cycles of the ancient Olympic Games. So I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like. This Antikythera mechanism. It's an ancient analog computer. Looks like this. Here's a screenshot, but if you really want to know, it looks kind of like a big wheel or a stone. It looks like an X on it. So, what happened there? So they would use this to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for, again, astrological purposes, as well as Olympiads. The cycle was used, the Metonic cycle, was used in the Babylonian calendar, was used in the ancient Chinese calendar systems, also known as the rule cycle, and the medieval computus, which is the calculation of the date of Easter. It regulates the 19-year cycle of intercalary months of the Hebrew calendar. I don't see that in the Bible, just saying. At the time of Meton, axial precession had not yet been discovered, and he could not distinguish between sidereal years, currently 365.256363 days, it's very accurate, are very specific, and tropical years, which are currently 365.242190 days, a little bit less. Most calendars, like the commonly used Gregorian calendar, which is what our planet uses right now, most people use that to measure civil time, are based on the tropical year. I didn't know that. Okay, so Gregorian is based on the tropical year, that 365.242190. And they maintain the seasons at the same calendar times each year. 19 tropical years are about 2 hours shorter than 235 synodic months. So the Metonic cycle's error is therefore it's one full day every 219 years, or 12.4 parts per million. So the Metonic cycle has an error in it. Would Jehovah's system have such an error? Good question. Roy Hoffman of the New Moon Society, which is now sighting the moon and gathering information for the Sanhedrin for the day when they will once again revert back to the sighting of the moon, he states that for over 1,000 years, the Hebrew calendar has been fixed by calculation. But today, the Hebrew calendar does not match that fixed by observing the moon. Even though the gap between the two calendars continues to increase, we do not have the authority to alter the calendar, the Hillel calendar, until a new Sanhedrin or religious high court is reestablished and is widely recognized. So back to the Metonic article. That's actually from I think a YouTube video. You can look it up. Roy Hoffman, New Moon Society, and I believe that's from the Temple Mount Institute. I watched that. It's pretty eye-opening. Back to the Metonic article. Traditionally, for the Babylonians and Hebrew lunisolar calendars, the years 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 are the long 13-month years of the Metonic cycle. This cycle, which can be used to predict eclipses, forms the basis of the Greek and Hebrew calendars and is used for the computation of the date of Easter year. The Babylonians applied the 19-year cycle since the late 6th century BC. I think I might need water. Hold on a sec. Okay. Where was I? So the Babylonians applied the 19-year cycle since the late 6th century BC. As they measured the moon's motion against the stars, the 235 to 19 relationship may originally have referred to sidereal years instead of tropical years, as it has been used for various calendars. Now let me quote to you how Judaism justifies this Metonic cycle and at the same time show you where we are in that Metonic cycle. The lunar month on the Jewish calendar begins when the first sliver of moon becomes visible. After the dark of the moon, in ancient times, the new months used to be determined by observation. When people observed the new moon, they would notify the Sanhedrin. Excuse me. When the Sanhedrin heard testimony from two independent, reliable eyewitnesses that the new moon occurred on a certain date, they would declare the Rosh Chodesh, first of the month, and they would send out messengers to tell people when the month began. The problem with strictly lunar calendars is that there are approximately 12.4 lunar months in every solar year, so a 12-month lunar calendar is about 11 days shorter than a solar year. And a 13-month lunar is about 19 longer than a solar year. The months drift around the seasons on such a calendar. On a 12-month lunar calendar, the month of Nisan, which is supposed to occur in the spring, would occur 11 days earlier in the season, each year. Eventually, it will occur in the winter, the fall, the summer, and then the spring again. On a 13-month lunar calendar, the same thing would happen in the other direction and faster. To compensate for this drift, the Jewish calendar uses a 12-month lunar calendar with an extra month occasionally added. The month of Nisan occurs 11 days earlier each year for 2 or 3 years, and then it jumps forward 30 days, balancing out the drift. In ancient times, this month was added by observation. The Sanhedrin observed the conditions of the weather, the crops, and the livestock. And if these were not sufficiently advanced to be considered spring, then the Sanhedrin inserted an additional month into the calendar to make sure that Pesach, or Passover, would occur in the spring. It is, after all, referred to in the Torah as Chag he Aviv, the festival of spring. They used to observe the state of the barley in the exact same way we now do, continuing. A year with 13 months is referred to in Hebrew as Shana Me Uberet, pronounced Shana Me Uberet, literally a pregnant year. In English, we commonly call it a leap year. The additional month is known as Adar 1. Adar Rishon, first Adar, or Adar Aleph, the Hebrew letter Aleph being the numeral 1 in Hebrew. The extra month is inserted before the regular month of Adar, known in such years as Adar 2, Adar Sheni, or Adar Beit. In the 4th century, Hillel II established a fixed calendar based on mathematical and astronomical calculations. So I've heard arguments saying that no, this calendar has always existed, but he only revealed it at that time. So anyway, we're going to keep reading. This calendar, still in use, standardized the length of months and the addition of months over the course of a 19-year cycle, so that the lunar calendar realigns with the solar years. Adar 1 is added in the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, and 19th years of the cycle. The current cycle began in Jewish year 5758, the year that began October the 2nd, 1997. Is that right? Yeah, I guess that's about right. 1997 was 5758 according to Judaism, and this Metonic cycle began that year. The leap years of the extra month, Adar Beit, is added just before Aviv, the following year of 1998. Now get out your charts that we have provided in the prophecies of Abraham and begin to count the 19-year cycles. Aviv 1998 being year 1. When you do this, 2016 is year 19 in the Metonic cycle, and it is a leap year. An extra month will be added just before Aviv 2016. You can also go to this link, there's a link there, to see that, yes, indeed, an extra month is added in March 2016. We have been telling you for some time now that in 2016, the Hebrew calendar and the Sightedmoon calendar will be 30 days apart, due to the fact that the barley will be ripe. Okay, so the Hebrew calendar was and the Sightedmoon calendar will be 30 days apart, right? Due to the fact the barley will be ripe and Passover 2016 will be about March 24th. This article was originally written in July 2015. Okay, good to know. There will also be a dark moon at this time and again in the fall at Sukkot. A dark moon warns us of famine coming. We have also been telling you that the time when this calendar issue will be finally fixed is in 2030, when the 2 witnesses bring back the 13 tribes of Israel from their imminently impending captivity to keep Passover in Jerusalem. So they've been telling you that the time. Okay, it'll be fixed, right? But there's going to still be those who want to use the Hebrew calendar, not the Sightedmoon calendar. All right, hold on. Something just popped in my head regarding what I just read. I'll look and see. Why that is. I think there was something I saw. Okay, yeah, it was a video from God Rules. Round the infected up and put in camp. Something strange. Okay, I don't know if that's related to what I just read, but it was about rounding people up in camps. Are they going to do that? Okay. Hypothetically, say he's right. say Joseph is right about Americans going into captivity, I thought about that. I've been thinking about how would that happen practically, like realistically, how could that occur? Because Americans will not, I mean, even Canadians. I don't think we want to be rounded up, but were that to happen, you'd need a government that was very totalitarian and communistic. Just imposed its will on its citizens. The only government I can think of that really does that in such a draconian way is the government of China. So unless I don't know, it seems so far fetched, but the only government I could see doing that to its people, not to its people, but to another people, is the Chinese government. So would they go to America and round up people and put them in concentration camps? Either China or I don't know, North Korea seems an outlier, or even Russia, but definitely one of the communist countries. Is North Korea? I don't know if anyone can answer this, but is North Korea a communist country? I'd have to search that up. But anyway, so maybe one of the communist countries would do that, or maybe even one of the Islamic, one of the countries that has Islamic rule or political Islam as their leaders, I guess you could say, as their heads. Could be. I don't know. But yeah, it's very it's hard to see that right now, but maybe not as hard as as it was a month ago, because the world changed so much just in a month. Okay, so there's nothing. Excuse me. But there is going to still be those who want to use the Hebrew calendar and not the Sightedmoon calendar. During World War II, 6 million Jews were slaughtered. Why? Again, these are not my opinions. These are just reading the newsletter. They all used the Hebrew calendar. They all went by the conjunction of the moon, and they all went by the postponement rules. They all were keeping the holy days at the wrong time. It was the same as if they were keeping the Saturday Sabbath on Sunday. It is the wrong day to what Jehovah commanded them to keep. So, the question is Yah a Elohim, an Elohim who is very particular about his commandments? Like, for example, there's that commandment to not do not touch the Ark of the Covenant. It has to be carried on staves. You can't, hold it or touch it. No human should touch it, and it shouldn't be carried like by oxes. It has to be carried by human beings on staves, and I don't know how many people, but maybe at least 4 strong people would do that with an ox, and then that forgot his name right now. I think it's Uzzle or something, and he touched the ark as it was about to fall, which in and of itself isn't bad. That's not wrong, his intent, but he broke the commandment, and the commandments are very specific. Is Elohim, is Jehovah a God that is very specific about his commands, and would he kill somebody because they broke it? And I think we can see that in some ways, yes, he is. In other ways, no, he's merciful, but there is a consequence. So he's trying to say that those Jews in that time of World War II, there was the Holocaust, and that was because, according to Sightedmoon, that they did not keep the holy days based on the correct dates, and that's been going on since Hillel too, essentially, since the Sanhedrin was removed, and that was after the time of Yeshua. So how many years has that been? It's been hundreds of years they've been doing it, and so I guess it finally caught up to them. Is that the reasoning here? Anyway, continuing on. Yes, in a recent newsletter, I warned you that if you are keeping the wrong holy days or using a calendar that Jehovah has not sanctioned, then you will lose your salvation. So he's saying it's a salvation issue. You know what? Personally, I don't agree with that because, for example, if you don't know any better, then you shouldn't be judged according to what you know or didn't know. But if you do know better, then yeah, I think it is a salvation issue if you know better. Because it says that for to whom much is given, much is expected. So I don't think it's a salvation issue unless you know better. So I have to add that caveat. Some have become very upset that I said such a thing, so they attack me. Is it my fault? They are not aligned with Jehovah. No, I've merely pointed out that they and those who do not obey Jehovah are sinning, and sinners are not found in the kingdom. So are they sinning? Well, the definition of sin is missing the mark. So yeah, they are missing the mark because they don't know any better. So I think that's the debate. Like, is this a salvation issue? And in some ways it is, but some ways it isn't, because you can't judge people on what they don't know. But then again, if you are keeping the Torah to the most how do I say it, in the most strict way, but not saying legalistic. I mean, you're keeping it to the spirit of what it says. Then yeah, maybe if you're doing it that way correctly, then yeah, you would be keeping it based on the calendar, based on how he how he had originally instituted the calendar. In Deuteronomy 32, verse 15. Okay, so he's saying Yeshurun grew fat and kicked. You grew fat, thick, and satisfied. Then he forsook God who made him and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. And on top of this, none of them were keeping sabbatical years. Yeah, actually, that's true. You'll notice, I'm going to read this in the Septuagint because I don't trust the Masoretic. The reason I don't is I'm going to do a video series on that, but the reason I don't trust the Masoretic is because it was edited in so many ways in order to remove proofs that Yehoshua was the Mashiach that was prophesied. So many proofs for that. So Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 15. I don't normally read the scripture references, but let's read this one. It says here, and Jehovah descended in a cloud. Okay, no, that's the wrong. Where am I? 32:15. Here it is. Excuse me. So Yaakov ate and was filled. So it doesn't say Yeshurun. It says Yaakov ate and was filled, and the beloved one kicked. He grew fat, became thick and broad. So not satisfied, became broad. Then he forsook the Elohim that made him and departed from Elohim, his Savior, or Yehoshua. It says salvation is of God, or it doesn't say of Yah, but anyway, essentially, yeah. Departed from Elohim, his salvation, his Savior. It doesn't say the rock here in the Septuagint. Okay, so they weren't keeping. So what I noticed is that, so modern Jews today, the majority of Jewish people do not keep the Sightedmoon calendar. I don't know of any Jews that actually there are. I think the Karaites do. There are some Jews, mostly Hebrew roots, Messianic Jews, and some Karaite Jews who do follow the sighted moon calendar, the crescent moon. But you'll notice that even in the Tanakh, historically, Jewish people, or not Jewish, I mean Israelites, those of the children of Israel, the people of Israel, they were not keeping the sabbatical years for a long time. When did that stop? And also the Jubilee year as well. So that's important to know, that those are normally the first laws to be neglected. So many people are keeping the Shemitah year, like honestly keeping it, where you have land and you don't plant, you don't till the soil, you don't touch your land in that 7th year. You give it a rest. Or if you don't have farmlands, then you would not eat anything that was grown or was cultivated in that Shemitah year. You would set aside enough food for a year. Food like fruits and vegetables, things that would grow from the ground in that 7th year, or food that was grown previously prior to the Shemitah. So anyhow, I'm going to continue. These people esteem Jehovah lightly. In other words, they do not fear him enough to search for the truth and then obey him. It has nothing to do with me. We are laying out all the facts here. I'm just going to increase the brightness here. You get to choose to be a hypocrite or a moron should you choose to ignore these truths and return to the Hebrew calendar, or the Enoch calendar, or the lunar Sabbath calendar. You choose. The word salvation here is Yeshua. Feminine passive participle of H3467. Something saved, that is abstractly deliverance. Hence, aid, victory, prosperity, deliverance, health, helping, salvation, save, saving, health, welfare. And then 3467 is Yasha, a primitive root, properly to be open, wide, or free. That is, by implication, to be safe, causatively to free or succor. At all, avenging, defend, deliverer, help, preserve, rescue, be safe, bring, having salvation, savior, get victory. The rock that makes you safe, the rock of your freedom, the rock that preserves your life and keeps you safe from harm, this is your salvation, and why you should choose to obey and keep the holy days when you're supposed to keep them. Or you can choose the next Holocaust for those who refuse to obey, and that is soon to begin. Again, your choice. So Judaism was not keeping the 4th commandment, and for not doing so, they were punished in the Holocaust of World War II, and the price for breaking the 4th commandment is death. Once again, just reading from the newsletter. And there's a reference here, Exodus 31, verses 14 to 17. They had broken the sign that identified them as Jehovah's. Yes, they kept the weekly Sabbath, but not the holy days, and not the sabbatical years. Yes, they thought they were keeping them. Christians think they are being holy by keeping Sunday as the Sabbath, but Jehovah never said to keep Sunday as the weekly Sabbath, nor did he authorize us to use the Metonic cycle of arbitrarily adding a 13th month at predetermined years in a 19-year cycle invented by men. That's true. Like he just said, the Metonic cycle was something that predated the Hillel II calendar. He's saying that the Babylonians, they had this wheel, like I said earlier, and that was a way to determine when you would add a 13th month every 19 years and so forth. Now let us look at what we are told in Revelation. It's Revelation 12, verses 13 to 17. So basically, the gist of this chapter, or this reference, is saying that me just look it up. Read it in my version here. The Westcott and Hort, which is like, I like to think of it as like the Septuagint of the New Testament, but really it isn't, but it's just the oldest existing translation. So it says here in Revelation 13, verse 17, so that no one is able to buy or sell except those that bear this brand, either the name of the beast or the number indicated by the letters of his name. Oh, it's the first time I've actually read that it's the letters of his name, not number. Here there is need for discernment. Let him... What? It doesn't make sense. Oh, it's 12. I read from 13. But anyway, let me finish that verse. It says, let him who has the ability compute the number of the beast, for the number indicates a man's name. And then it says in English, it's number 666, whereas in the Greek, the original, it's chi, or he or she, iota stigma or sigma. That's an important point because that reveals to us what it actually is. Could be one of two things, but that's not the point of this video. Could be one of two things. I'm just going to say what they are. Could be the X1C, which is something used a lot in the Catholic Church to denote Christ, X, and IC is Jesus. Could be Christ Jesus, meaning the false Messiah, the false Jesus, or it could be the Arabic characters Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Could be one of those two possibilities, but I don't see any other possibilities besides those two. So it could be the Catholic Church, or it could be radical Islam. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the trend right now is not that the Catholic Church is growing. The fastest growing religion is another one. So, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. So, verse 17 says, the dragon was enraged at the woman and went to fight with the rest of her offspring, those who lay to heart the commands of Elohim and bear their testimony to Yahushua, and he took his stand on the seashore. Okay. Here then is my question to you. When the woman flees into the wilderness, where she is protected for 3.5 years from Satan, who are these other people that Satan now makes war with, who keeps the commandments and the testimony of Yeshua? Why did they not flee with the rest of the woman into the wilderness? I say to you that they do not go because they are following the Jewish Hebrew calendar, with the postponement rules and the Metonic cycles of added leap years, without regard to the barley being Aviv. Okay, so where is it? Hold on. Let's read that. I guess I need to read that. All right, so verse 13. When the dragon saw that he was hurled down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But to the woman were given the 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she might fly to her place in the wilderness, where she is being tended for 1 year, and for 2 years, and for a half year, 3.5 years, in safety from the serpent, or Satan. Then the serpent poured water from its mouth after the woman, like a river, so that it might sweep her away. But earth came to her help, and opened her mouth, and drank up the river which the dragon had poured out of its mouth. The dragon was enraged at the woman, and went to fight with the rest of her offspring. So he fought with the rest of her offspring. I guess there's a distinction between the woman and the rest of her offspring. Why did they not flee? Okay. When you count out the Metonic cycle, as we have now shown to you, year 2017, the year 2017 is year 1 in the Metonic cycle. So 2030 would then be the 14th year of the cycle, and it is a forced leap year. Passover 2030 will be about March 19, according to the Sightedmoon calendar, or at least it has the potential at this date. Excuse me. We will not know for sure until that very year. But because of the Metonic cycle, 2030 is the 14th year and a leap year, making Passover come on April 18 of 2030. We are given a very specific command about Passover. We are to be ready to flee, and at this time, Jehovah will judge. Oh, what is that? There are 13 lunar months comprising 28 days each. Yes, that's correct. Then, oh, sorry, I'm not going to say your name. We're given a very specific command. Okay, we are to be ready to flee it, and at this time, Jehovah will judge. Okay. Oh, okay, thanks for the comment. Appreciate that. Exodus 12, verse 11, that's a scripture reference here. You can look that up. When one group eats Passover in 2030, they will then flee to the wilderness, and they will be pursued by the army of the beast. When that army is swallowed by the earth, okay, right, so waters, when it mentions waters, they aren't always literally waters. They can mean people, like nations, or in this case, armies. So they're going to be pursued by an army, the bride, one group of the bride at least. That army is swallowed up by the earth. That reminds me of Exodus, where the Red Sea was parted, but then it came back together and swallowed up the armies of Egypt, right? The beast then turns to make war on those gathering in Jerusalem for the Passover on April 18. Wow, okay, that actually makes logistical sense. The two witnesses are killed during this time. Oh, in 2030. Okay, they have caused the world trouble for the past 3.5 years. Okay. Yeah, just looking at the news, the headlines, and we have the coronavirus that's taking over headlines, and rightly so, because it's very much an issue, potential global health emergency, and that's only been going on not even 3 months. So if we have two people, or basically they close up the sky, so there's no rain for 3.5 years, you're going to have worldwide famine as a result. Yeah, people are going to be very annoyed. The world governments are going to be very angry. So they've caused trouble for the past 3.5 years. It is because of this trouble that Israel is brought back to the land from captivity. They're brought back to the land. Okay, Israel meaning the lost tribes, the 10 lost tribes. In this case, he means the nations of America, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, and the Commonwealth, basically. But just like Jacob, it is a deception to slaughter them all once again. This is why the woman flees when she sees the armies. Right. But those coming late, or those who do not see the armies and are going to keep the Passover, according to the Hebrew calendar, will be slaughtered, as Revelation warns you. Yeah, so you have the armies that, just like Yehoshua said, Luke 21, I believe 21 verse 11, he talks about his disciples asked him, when are these times going to happen? What are the signs of the end time? And he tells them that when you see the army surrounding Jerusalem, flee to the mountains. The time is very close. And so that's the reference there. Excuse me. After this, there will be no more calendar confusion. It will be the original sighted moon calendar, based on the barley being Aviv, so based on what it says in Scripture, essentially. And those in the wilderness with the Messiah at Bozrah will be keeping the holy days at the right time, and the Shabbat, the Sabbath, and the sabbatical years. Okay, I read about the Bozrah thing. That's I don't, I'm not on board with that, but I mean, I could see that how that could happen, but again, I don't agree with that. Just chiming in there, because in the original Septuagint it doesn't say Bozrah; it says something else. But I can see how that can be interpreted that way. Many people write and say there is no 13th month in the Bible, so they are not going to keep it. Yet, in their hypocrisy, if they are keeping the holy days according to the Hebrew calendar, then they are keeping a 13th month, approximately every third calendar year. Yet they state categorically that they are not going to keep it. Are you going to follow man's rules or Jehovah's commandments? The choice is yours. Remember, though, you must pay the price if you are wrong. Okay, next. Next subheading. Ezekiel's 13th month. How to prove the Bible uses the 13th month. Excuse me. How do we prove that the 13th month was in fact part of the normal understanding of those who kept the Torah before Yeshua was born? Okay, how do you prove that? That's a good question. That is not as easy to prove as it is to state, but it is very provable. Many will go to the courses that David set up to run the temple as proof that there is no 13th month. So, 1 Chronicles 27, verse 1 to, to 22. So I'm going to go and look at that in the I'm going to take a look in the Septuagint just to see if it lines up with what is presented here, because if it shows that there's something off about it, maybe it was removed. You never know. There's a second, First Chronicles 27. This is talking about the, the courses of the priests, which is very important to record, to have, to preserve this in this record. So 27 verse 1, okay, right? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to scan through it and see if there's anything about a 13th month. So now the sons of Israel, according to their number, heads of families, captains of thousands, and captains of hundreds, and scribes ministering to the king, and for every affair of the king, according to their divisions. For every ordinance of coming in and going out monthly, for all the months of the year, and one division of them was 24,000. Okay, I'm just going to read the first one. And over the first division of the first month is Boaz, the son of Zabdiel. Okay, different name in the Masoretic. Of the sons of, in his division were 24,000. Of the sons of Pharez, one was chief of all the captains of the host for the first month. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward to the last, should be 12, right? The 12th captain, 15, verse 15. It's important to know this, to see what he's saying is true. Like the Bereans, he should prove all things. Look it up. The 12th month, it says the 12th, for the 12th month was Choldia the Netophathite. What does it say here? Heldai. Oh, okay, different name. Belonging to Gathoniel. and in his division were 20 and 4,000. And over the tribes of Israel, the chief for Reuben was Eleazar, the son of Zechari. Okay, so that's the end there. So 12 months. Yeah. All right. Oh, let me see. Verse 22. It's an interesting name there. Kind of like that name. It says 22. What is that name? For Dan Azariel. Oh, that's a nice name. Azariel, the son of Jeroab. These are the chiefs of the tribes of Israel. Okay. We then have Solomon telling us about how the kingdom was provided for each month. Each region was to take care of the needs of the kingdom for 1 month. The same as David, who had the priest serve for 2 weeks twice a year, and he also had the army rotating each month, with each tribe taking turns standing guard. Solomon also had each region serve for 1 month at a time. Solomon. Okay, right. We had recently talked about the taskmaster and how people were paying over 20% in taxes. Back then, this would work out to be 1/12 of the year. Each region served the king, about 10%, which is a far cry from the 30 to 50% many now pay in North America. I have to add, excuse me, First Kings 4, verses 7 to 19. Okay, so I'm going to look this up because it's bolded here. Excuse me. So in my Bible, it's actually Third Kings. Third Kings chapter 4, verse 7. Right. All right. So, and Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel to provide for the king and his household. Each one's turn came to supply for a month in the year. Actually, you know what? I don't really. It's one of the scriptures that I don't keep as to memory. But yeah, I forgot that Solomon did uh, have the system in place. So, and these are their names, and it says here, verse 6. And these were their names: Bean, the son of Or, in the month of Ephraim, one. Okay, so on and on. I'm going to skip ahead to verse 18. Let's go to 18. Semai, son of Elah, in Benjamin. Gaber, verse 19. Gaber, son of Adai. It says Uri in the Masoretic, but the son of Adai in the land of Gad. The land of Sion, king of Esabon. Okay, it says Amorites in the Masoretic. And of Og, king of Basan, and one officer in the land of Judah. Well, wait. He was the only officer which was in the land. That's a Masoretic. He was the only. But here in the Septuagint says, and one officer in the land of Judah. So what month is that? You know what? I should just count these names to see if they correspond to the months. So Bean is one, right? Son of Dakar. Okay. Son of Dakar is another. The son of Esdi, three. Um, Nephthador. That's another one. Bana. That's another one. Bana. So it's 5. Naber. Neighbor. That's another one. That's 6. Akinadab is another one. 7. Baana. 8. Semai. 9. Where is that? 19, right? Gaber is 10. And then Josaphat, verse 17, is 11. Wait, I think I missed one. It should be 12. Oh, Akimana. Okay, so that's the 12th. That's one I missed. So there are 12. So this verse 19 is speaking of the 13th month. And it was at this time that this person served. Of this one verse in 1 Kings 4:19, we have the following commentaries. Okay. Is that right? Hold on. I just feel like I miscounted. I'm sorry to. We have to make sure that I don't miss anything, or that we don't just believe what is being presented here. So the first one is Bean, the son of Or. That's 1, right? Dakar and Makez is 1. Esdi and Arabath. That's 3. Okay, and Nephthador is 4, right? Bana, son of Akiluth, is 5, right? Oh, I lost count. Bean, right? Son of Dakar, 1. Son of Esdi, it's another one. Nephthador, 4. And Bana is 5, son of Akiluth, right? The son of Naber is 6, in Rabath Gilead. To him fell the lot of Ergab and Basan, 60 great cities. Okay, that's 6. Akinadab, son of Sado. So that's another one. That's 7. Baana, son of Kuzi. That's 8. Semai, son of Elah in Benjamin. 9. Gaber, son of Adai and of Og. That's 10. Josaphat, son of Fuazud in Issachar. 11. Why am I missing a name? That is so strange. Let's look at the, you know what, it has to be proven. You can't just take this for at face value. Okay, let's look at the Masoretic compared to the Septuagint here. So the first one in the Masoretic is the son of Hor and Mount Ephraim. Okay. So that's number 1, right? Son of Or. Here I have Or and Ephraim. Okay, 1. That's done. The son of Dakar and Makaz. Here I have the son of Dakar and Makaz. Okay. The son of Hesed. Here I have the son of Esdi. It's verse 10. Yeah, so that's confirmed, right? The son of Abinadab. That's 11. And here I see Nephthador belonged to Aminadab. It's 11. So that's 4. Which had Taphath, the son. Okay. Baana, the son of Ahilud, 12. Bana, son of Akilu. So that's 5. And the son of Naber in Rabath Gilead. That's 6. I wish they'd just say, okay, he was 6, but it doesn't say that. You have to count it out yourself. Ahinadab, the son of Edo, had Mahanim. So that's, I guess that would be 7, number 14. That's a quick one. And then the next one is Achimaas in Nephthalim. Nephtali. That would be 7. Lost count now. He took Basmath. Okay. And Bana, the son of Hushai, 16. That is 8. Samai, son of Elah, 9. No, I'm missing one. Oh, it's hard to see this in. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna write a list. This is a needlessly long video, but you know what? This is important. So 1, I'm gonna just write it down. 1 is bean. Bean. Number 2. The son of Dakar. All right, son of Dakar. That's 2. All right, 3. The son of Esdi. Son of Esdi. Esdi. That's 3. 4 is Nephthador. No. All Nephthador belong to the son of Aminadab. Okay. All Nephthador. What does that say in the Masoretic? I don't know if that's properly understood. What all Nephthador? What is that? First, this is First Kings, right? First Kings, chapter 4, verse 11. I have here the son of Abinadab in all the region of Dor. So all the region of Dor, or Nephthador, which had Taphat, the daughter of Solomon. So Aminadab, the son of Aminadab, son of Aminadab. That's 4. So that's confirmed. Let's not lose count. Number 5. Bana. Bana is 5. Okay, that's confirmed. Had Ethanak and Megiddo, and was the whole house of San. Okay, is that 2 names there? To him pertain Tanakh and all Bethshan. Okay, that's another one. So the son of Geber in verse 13 is the next one. The son of Naber. Okay, it says Naber in the Septuagint. Son of Naber, or neighbor. The next one, excuse me, Akinadab. Akinadab is 7. Akinadab. Number 8. See, I didn't even want to read this scripture reference, but in a way, if you don't understand what the argument is, and you just accept it like it's the gospel without even proving it, and that's not very that's not a wise thing to do. Kind of like sheep, I guess, if you do that. Aki Maas. Aki Maas was a Naphtali. He took Bazamath, daughter of Salmon's wife. Okay, so we have here Akinadab and Achimaas. So I think that's where I got mixed up. And then after that, you have Baana. So here's Baana and Bana. So I think that's what happened there. Baana is 16, verse 16. Verse 12, it says here Baana, but then in verse 16, I see Baana with a H. But in the Septuagint, it says Bana, B-A-N-A. And in verse 16 it says B-A-A-N-A. So it's just one letter because there's the difference there. And then Semai, son of Elah, is 18, which is number 10. Semai. So we should. Gaber, son of Adai. Okay. Does that line up with. Are they both agreeing? Are they both saying the same thing, the Masoretic and the Septuagint? So this is kind of like a stealthy way to do that video series I wanted to do on the differences between the Septuagint, Brenton specifically, and the Masoretic. So what's number 11? Geber. In verse 19, I have Gaber. Okay, it's almost the same. Gaber. And then 12. Josaphat. There you are. Wow. Okay, Josaphat. So there is 12. I don't know. I was getting 11 for the longest time. But once again, you do it carefully, and if you look at it closely and carefully, you will find what you're looking for. It's like you're digging for gold. So, all right, what just happened here? My browser, my Bible crashed on my phone. The Masoretic crashed. It's just okay. Wow, it's really not necessary for it to crash. Okay. So I was at verse 17, right? Josaphat, son of Fuazud. Excuse me. 19, right? No, 19. Oh, what in the world? It says here 19, and then it goes to 17 in my version here. What did I have is Baana, okay. Simai, Gaber, Josaphat. Right, so the verses are a little bit different in the Septuagint, the order. And thus the officers provided Geber, the son of Uri. How does that? It still doesn't make sense. It's still adding up to 12. Whereas you think it would add up to 13. So, okay, you know what? I'm just going to accept that it's 12 because that's what I counted. There's no other name after 17. There's no other name. That's it. So that's 12. Bean, son of Dakar, son of Ezdi, son of Aminadab, Bana, son of Neighbor, Achinadab, Achimas, Baana, Semai, Geber, Josaphat. That's 12. So let's see what he's trying to say here. I don't know if hopefully I can resume from where I was in that article. Now it's gonna. Oh boy, not this again. I gotta scroll through now. All right, where were we? Gotta scroll through to find my original place because my browser crashed. Or didn't crash, it just reset. Okay, so we're at the counting of the. So how Solomon had 12 officers, right? Okay, so it says right there. I don't know why I had to number it, but I just did. Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel to provide for the king and his household. Right, so there are 12, right? I guess that was kind of pointless, but right. So this verse 19 is speaking of the 13th month. And it was at this time that this person served. How is it speaking of the 13th month? I don't understand. It just doesn't say that. Gaber, son of Adai, in the land of Gad, the land of Sion, king of Esebon, and of Og, king of Basan, and one officer in the land of Judah. Son of in the land. Okay, so Gaber, son of Adai, is in the land of Gad, the land of Sion, king of Esebon, and of Og, king of Basan, and one officer in the land of Judah. So what is that one officer? Is that another person that is not named? That's a very good possibility. Let's look at the Masoretic and see what it says there. Does it say that? Does it support this claim? Does it support the Septuagint in verse 19? Oh, wow, it doesn't. Gaber, son of Adai, in the land of Gad, okay, the land of Sion, king of Esebon, and of Og, king of Basan. So this is a Septuagint. Let's read the Masoretic. Gaber, the son of Uri, was in the country of Gilead, in the country of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan. And that's where they agree there up to that point. And then once you get past that, in the Septuagint, it says here, and one officer in the land of Judah. That's the Septuagint. And one officer. So it's an addition. And so it's not Gaber anymore. It's a different person. And one officer in the land of Judah. In the Masoretic, it says, and he was the only officer which was in the land, which shows you this is clear evidence that the Masoretic is trying to say that Gaber is 12, which he is, but then it's saying that, and he was the only officer, referring back to Gaber, being he was the only officer which was in the land, which is not true, because it says right in the Septuagint that, and, hold on, in verse 19, and one officer. And one officer in the land of Judah. Judah. That's important to notice. Okay, did we see Judah in any of these areas? Bean is from Ephraim. Dakar, son of Dakar, is in another area, but not Judah. And then son of Esdi and Ophir. Nephthador, that's another area. Bana, the first Bana, was in San, and is the area there. Ma'aber Lukam. Okay, the son of Naber and Rabath Gilead, right? Akinadab, uh, Ma'anim, that's his area. Ma'anaim. Achimas and Naphthalim. Ba'ana, the second Ba'ana, is in Asher and Baal Oth. Semai in Benjamin. Gaber in the land of Gad. And one officer in the land of Judah. So Gaber is in the land of Gad, the land of Sion, king of Esabon, and of Og, king of Basan. So that is one distinction. That is one area. And then it says here, and one officer in the land of Judah. So I wish I could tell Joseph, I could just send him a message and say, in the Septuagint, it actually supports what you're saying. In the Masoretic, it does not. There is one officer, I'm going to put here, one officer, nameless, nameless in Judah. I'm going to write here, or Yehuda. And that can be found in the Septuagint. Right here, First Kings. Actually, not first, it's Third Kings, because there is no such thing as the book of Samuel. It's called First and Second Kings, according to the Septuagint. So Third Kings, chapter 4, verse 19. So we just did this live on YouTube, on a live stream that we discovered. And thank you for sticking along with the ride. I know it was kind of, it seemed needless, it seemed pointless. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I counting and I'm losing count? But at the same time, you need to prove all things. You can't just accept, take it at face value that what we're presented here is the truth or the gospel or the word of God. It isn't until you prove it. You got to prove it and not just be, like a wave tossed to and fro. You have to know what you're looking at and be firmly founded in what it's saying. So one officer who is nameless in Judah. So that's 13. Let's go back to the newsletter and see what it says here. So this verse, 19, is speaking of the 13th month. Actually, I would argue it also speaks of the 13th person. I mean, I know it says 12 officers, but there was also, it says here, he had 12 officers, right? But at the same time, those officers correspond to the months in the year. So normally there would be 12, but then there's a 13th. Why was there a 13th for the additional month, right? That makes a logistical sense. So this verse is speaking of the 13th month, and it was at this time this person served. Of this one verse in 1 Kings 4:19, we have the following commentaries. The first commentary is from John Gill, and he was the only officer which was in the land, which is not true of Gaber, for there was another officer in the land of Gilead besides him. Excuse me, the son of Gaber, before observed, unless it should be rendered in that land. In that part of the land he had, but then the same might have been observed of all the rest of the officers. Excuse me, the words may be rendered best, and there was one officer in the land, which some understand of one officer over all the rest, Azariah the son of Nathan. But it seems best what other Jewish writers say, that this was another officer appointed for the intercalated month. When there were 13 months in the year, there was an officer in the land fixed for that month to make provision out of the land, perhaps anywhere where he pleased, being not limited to any certain place. You know what? That's false. We just proved that. Because what this man is doing, John Gill. What John Gill is doing, Perrier. What John Gill is doing is he's trying to reason with what is presented, the Masoretic, and really stretching that scripture to, he's using this logic, which, it's not saying that what he's saying in the scripture. He's interpreting it in a way that fits his ideology, that fits his argument. But if you just go to the original Masoretic, you go to the original, this Septuagint, which was around during the time of Yehoshua. It existed. This text existed in the Greek, obviously, from 300 to 400 years before Yehoshua, and it was widely accepted and trusted by the New Testament church. It says clearly, and one officer in the land of Judah. And one officer in the land of Judah. Verse 19. Verse 19 right there. And one officer in the land of Judah. So you don't have to use circular reasoning or some kind of, you're trying to shoehorn in your kind of logic here. Okay, it's 3:30 in the morning. Some people call that the witching hour, or the like a spiritual hour, 3:30 to 4:30. I don't know if that's true, but just as an aside, for some reason, there was a week where I was feeling very close to Elohim. I was really good with my prayer life, really good with him in a lot of ways, and he would wake me up without an alarm. I'd wake up like right at 4:30, without fail, every Shabbat. And I thought, this is not a coincidence, because I don't believe in coincidences like that, especially, and I'm not setting an alarm. So anyway, that's just an aside. The following quote, excuse me. The following quote is provided by my friend Nehemiah Gordon. The 2nd century text, Sifrei Devarim 2, verse 3, or chapter 2, verse 3, comments on the one governor who was over the land in 1 Kings 4:18. What is this one? This is for the month of intercalation. So I agree that if you go to the Septuagint, where it says, and one officer in the land of Judah, what is that officer, that one officer in the land of Judah, and that additional person? What is he? What purpose does he serve? And that is the month of intercalation, the 13th month. I agree with that point, but they just don't seem to go to the Septuagint. I guess, it's rather sad that it's not like this isn't available. It's not like nobody knows about the Septuagint. It exists. It's existed for centuries, way before the Masoretic. And if people would just go back to what Yeshua used, they would prove, doubtless, to all the Jews that he is the Messiah, the anointed of Yah. They would know just by going to the sorry, I keep saying Masoretic, to the Septuagint. And not the newer one. I have the newer one too, but you know what? I'm going to look at that too. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm going to just get my other Septuagint. Okay. So I don't think there's much more in this article. I mean, the newsletter is almost done. Excuse me. And normally I don't read. I normally don't go through. This is the Nets. A new English translation of the Septuagint. Okay. And it's not as accurate as the Brentons. When as people modernize, they abandon the old ways, and that's not always correct. Just because things are old, you can't just get rid of them. And I guess that's the same logic people use when it comes to the Bible. They're saying that's old. It's, you can't trust that anymore. You know, it's outdated. That's what a lot of arguments are when it comes to the Bible. All right, so this is Third Kings 4. Let's see what it says. I want to see if my other Septuagint corroborates what is presented here. So this is 3 Kings chapter 4, verse 19. Wow. Oh man, that is just, I find that sinister. That is really, okay, I'll read it in the Brentons. I'm going to read in the Brentons. See, I'd like to do a series on the differences between the Septuagint and the Masoretic, and there are huge differences, huge differences. So I don't want to spoil that, but let's just look at just this one for the time being, because that's what's in the newsletter. First, 3 Kings chapter 4, and what verse is that? Gotta commit this to memory. 19. Gaber, son of Adai, in the land of Gad, the land of Sion, king of Esabon, and of Og, king of Basan, and one officer in the land of Judah. That's verse 19 of the Brenton Septuagint. Here's verse 19 in the Nets, the New English translation of the Septuagint. This is verse 19. Ready? Let's see how long it is. Josaphat, or Eosaphat, son of Fuasud in Issachar. That's it. That's all it says. What happened to the rest of the verse? What did they translate? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You know what? I misread. Verse 18 in the Nets is actually verse 19. Okay, so let's go back. It says here, Gaber, son of Adai, in the land of Gad. Okay, it's lining up pretty good. The land of King Sion, of Hesabon. So that lines up too. And of King Og of Basan. And one Nasif in the land of Eudas. Josaphat, son of Fuasud and Issachar. No, that doesn't make sense. 19, you can't just shoehorn 19 that's why in the Brantons, Josaphat, son of Fuasud and Issachar is actually verse 17. Oh no, okay, no, never mind. Sorry about that. No, it's a separate thought. Okay. And one Nasif. Okay, what is Nasif? Footnote here. And one official in Hebrew. So clearly, even in the Nets, it agrees with the Brantons. It says, and one official in the land of Yehuda. It's a different person than Gaber, who oversaw the land of Hesabon and Basan. It's a different person, right? Okay, so that's good. I'm glad we looked at that. I should get back to the newsletter. So you can look in both. You can see very clearly if you have a copy of these. I strongly recommend the Brantons Septuagint. It will teach you a lot and make it's basically what the disciples used. It's what Yehoshua used. Maybe not what he exactly used, but at the same time, it was such a translation that they did trust it. They didn't, and if they had, most likely they did have a Hebrew copy of the Tanakh, and that was pretty much word for word what the Septuagint is saying. Is just in Hebrew, though. Okay, so let's go back here. Some of you will dismiss this verse because it does not come right out and tell you. You have to think. Okay, then we have one more article to share with you. But again, you'll have to think Ezekiel's 30 days. Okay, so you know what? So he's using that as proof to say that there is a 13th month in the Bible. This does prove it. This does prove it. This is Third Kings chapter 4, verse 18 in the Nets, and verse, I believe, 19 in the Brentons Septuagint. So the second half of verse 19. So we've just proved live, not just reading this newsletter, because that's what I've been doing, but not just reading it, but proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that there were 13 months when you needed to add an additional month. There was a 13th person that was overseeing, it says here, the land of Judah. And it was an unnamed person, an unnamed officer. Here in Septuagint, Brenton Septuagint says here, and one officer, right? So that is correct. So some of you will dismiss it. So I'm gonna send a message to Joseph and tell him about that. That's very it's big. I think that's a big discovery. You don't have to use circular reasoning or shoehorn. Say basically, you're not trying to make scripture say what you want it to say when it says something different. Like, don't do that. That's very Catholic. You know, remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Okay, well that must be not the seventh day, it must be the first day of the week. Because why? Because we want it to be. It's not the way you. Anyway, right? Ezekiel's 30 days. That's the next article, or not article? Saying the next. He's saying the next. Yeah, article. Okay. There are some out there who claim the world used to be 30 days every month. It never was, nor will be. Here's a typo there. Nor will be. But they still insist, based on Daniel 12's 1,335, 1,260, and 1,290, I think days he means, and the verse in Revelation. What you are about to read is going to show you that there was not 30-day months. It is going to prove to you that they were going by 29 and 30-day months. Oh, I'm excited now. And it is going to prove to you that they had a 13th month year, or 13-month year. Oh, wait, what? We're ending here. In fact, if you understand prophecy, then you know that the 1,335 days of Daniel and the 1,290 days of Daniel include in both of them a 13th month. But I digress. Let us now get to the 30 days of Ezekiel. So that's where the newsletter ends. I'm going to leave a reply. No one's replied to this article, this newsletter. I'm going to leave one talking about what we just discovered here in the Septuagint, but I'm going to click the link and see where it looks like in a previous newsletter. I'm not going to read that because the point of this live stream was to talk about what was presented this week, not in previous weeks. So you link to an article. It's an archive newsletter from November the 7th. Doesn't say what year. Oh, 2007. Wow, 13 years ago. An article is written that I do not wish to withhold from you, the readers of this website. It is called Ezekiel's 30 Days or the 13th Month. Okay, so that's the newsletter. I thank you all for watching. Shabbat Shalom for those who are observing this day. May Yah bless you and protect you. May He give you His Shalom on this day, which is set apart from the rest of the week. It's holy time. Even the stream is like, it's holy time recorded in time. So people watching in the future, and it's not Shabbat, they're watching a recording of what was said, what was discovered during holy time, which I don't know if that would happen during the, probably not. It wouldn't happen during the regular 6 day week or the other 6 days of the week. So wow, this is what I was talking about in the previous newsletters. I did streams. It was very autobiographical, very much like reading a diary. And they were so long. I went at least 4 hours, maybe, just doing one newsletter. And to be honest, like there were some gems here and there. It was a matter of going through the newsletter and finding, okay, what's important here? What do we need to know? What is profitable for our salvation, for understanding, to be closer to our Creator? And it was hard to just sift through it, but I did it. I like to think I did it pretty thoroughly, pretty carefully, but without having to go read it verbatim, which would have taken 10 hours. And I'm not exaggerating, it would have taken 10 hours. But, doing it the way I did it took less than half the time, maybe even a quarter of the time, or at least a third. So I'm going to leave a reply on this newsletter and just say that in the Septuagint, Breton Septuagint, it supports what you're saying, and you have to shoehorn an argument that doesn't, something that isn't there. So again, thank you for watching. I'll do another stream, not on the newsletter, but continuing the series on this book, The Day and Hour No Man Knows. So it was a riddle. It was a riddle, not a command. And we left off on chapter 20, the constellation Virgo. I'm still reading it. I think I'll do that. If not in a few minutes, maybe later. Maybe I'll take a nap first. I don't know, because I fell asleep pretty early. And I think I had at least 4 or 5 hours of sleep, so I should just get another bit of sleep. But I don't know, my mind is so awake right now, so I may not. I may do another live stream and just continue this video series, but it will be in higher quality video because I'm using my laptop, which I guess is an old laptop. I don't know, the video is just, the camera isn't the best quality. It looks like I'm filming with like 2000 technology, like 20 years ago technology. But I'll use my phone, which has 1080p, and look forward to that. Basically, this book, if you're not familiar with what it's saying, is that it's telling us when Jesus Christ, Yehoshua HaMashiach, will come back. And he told us, he will return on the day and hour no man knows, which is a Hebrew idiom, which means the Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets. Okay, what's it? Good morning. I received the message. It's coming back at the end of the tribulation. Okay, you received a message in your dream or when you're awake? It's coming back at the end of the tribulation. 2028. You know what? I'm not going to dismiss what you said, but time will tell. Time will prove whether you're right or wrong. But yeah, I do believe that we have 25 years, maybe less, but the time is very, very close to the return of Yeshua. Because look at it this way. In the New Testament, they're already saying that it was near. Even at the end of Revelation, it says here that, Yeshua said himself, verse 20 of chapter 22, he whose testimony this is, says, assuredly, I will come quickly. Amen, come, Adonai Yeshua. May the blessing of Adonai Yeshua HaMashiach be with his people. So he just said, I assuredly, he said that a lot. Assuredly, I say to you. Let me just look at one of his. He said that so it was like his trademark. His people knew. Says verily, verily in the Old English. So if I could find a scripture, I didn't think I'd talk about this, but that comment just spurred me to. And thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. Oh, what's happening with my phone? Okay, that's what happens when I don't think it's a coincidence that there's all these technical difficulties sometimes when you're. Okay, let's look for. Okay, verily I say unto you. Okay, is there one who says verily, verily? But anyway, Matthew 8, verse 10. Let's see what. Matthew 8, verse 10. How does it translate that in my Westcott and Hort English version? Matthew 8, verse 10. Excuse me. It says here, Yehoshua was surprised to hear this and said to those who were following him, that's not 8, verse 10. Verily I say to you. Okay, no, it doesn't say that here. It says, never I tell you. Oh, it doesn't say that. Okay. I need to find a better verse that says, verily, verily. If anyone can find a verily, verily verse, I'd appreciate that. So save. I'm going to just Google it. I'm going to Google that. Verily, verily, I tell you. Okay. Trying to prove a point here before I close this, end this stream. Verily, verily, I say unto you. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. John 5:24. Let's look at that. 5. Yohanan 5:24 in the King James, and then we'll look at it in the Masoretic. I'm trying to prove a point here as to the return of Mashiach. John 5:24, right? It says here, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word and believeth on him that sent me hath everlasting life and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. So that's what it says in the King James. Trying to prove a point. Let's just stick with me for a moment. Yeah, 5:24. In truth, I tell you that he who listens to my message and believes him who sent me has immortal life and does not come under the condemnation, but has already passed out of death into life. What I'm trying to prove here is that when he said verily, verily, in the original, because he's speaking Hebrew, verily, verily means amen, amen. Translated here in my Westcott and Hort English version that in truth I tell you. So yeah, in truth, when someone says amen before saying a statement or reading something, it means what I'm about to tell you is the truth. You can bank on it that it's the truth. So in verse 20 of Revelation 22, Yeshua says the same thing. Essentially, he says, amen, this is true. This is going to happen. Amen, I will come quickly. And then it says in the next verse, amen, come, Adonai Yeshua. So he's not going to wait too much longer, although he has delayed it, not delayed it in the way that people think he's delaying it will ever come, but it's more that he's showing mercy to us, allowing us time to prepare to repent. And he's got a reason for that. He has a plan as to why that is. So if we look at our calendar, and they say, a day is like 1,000 years to Elohim. 1,000 years like a day. So if you use that logic, it's been just over 2 days. 2 days. And if I look at a week and I tell you, okay, you know what, today is Shabbat, or technically Saturday, according to the world, I'll see you on Monday. Does that seem like a long time from now? I'll see you on Monday. Okay, I'll see you next month. No, yet, or next year. No, Monday is 2 days from now. If you look at time relative to how Elohim sees it, because he is eternal, in his eyes, 2 days is just, for 2,000 years, I should say, is not that long. So when Yehoshua says, Amen, I come quickly, 2 days would fall within that, using that logic. 2 days is pretty quick. It's not even a week. It's not even 7 days. It's not 7,000 years. I'll see you in 2 days, basically, is what he's saying. I'm coming quickly. If you go on vacation, right? And someone asks you, okay, how long are you going to be away? I'm going to be away for, the people assume when someone says vacation, you're going to be away, what, like a week or 2 weeks, maybe a month, if you really, if you really want a good vacation. But if they tell you, yeah, I'm going to be away, I'm going to Florida or Jerusalem, I'll be away for 2 days. I'll see you again in 2 days. And my reaction would be, what, 2 days? It's not a real vacation. So if Yeshua said to us, I'm going away, I'm going to ascend to back where I came from, going back to my place at the right hand of the Father, of our Father. I'll see you again. When? In 2 days. Like, whoa, 2 days. 2 days that's, you barely even left. But no, 2 days as he sees it, which is roughly 2,000 years. So if what you say is correct, 2028, yeah, that's roughly 2 days. Excuse me. But Joseph Dumond is saying it's more like 2033 or maybe after that. But anyway, it's not a big discrepancy where, okay, 5 years, maybe that's a discrepancy, but it's not a wide enough discrepancy where you'd say, yeah, 100 years difference. So it's still within, a decade or so. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure if that is actually 2033. I haven't proved that. I haven't asked him myself. I am in touch with him. I can ask him. And I'm going to also make a comment before I start doing my live stream, or not my live stream, before I upload the next video in this series. And then after, I'm just going to reveal some plans here. This is completely impromptu, but I'm going to do this series, and we're at chapter 20, so we have 10 videos to go. And then once I finish that, I'm going to do a series, and I hope people will, especially those who keep the Torah, or observing Torah, or obeying Yah, will find it very helpful. And I'm going to talk about, basically, I'm going to do a series on the Septuagint versus the Masoretic. What are the biggest differences? I'm not going to talk about minute differences, which aren't really doctrinal issues or salvation issues. I'm not just looking at salvation issues either. I'm looking at big discrepancies where, where it changes, like all of Scripture, or it changes the text in such a way that it says a completely different thing. So we just found that. We found one on the live stream in 3 Kings chapter 4, or if you have a Masoretic, it's 1 Kings chapter 4, in verse 19. Second half, it says, and one officer in the land of Judah. But in the King James, it said a completely different thing, to, I guess, conceal that there was a 13th month. So you'll find that in the Masoretic text. Excuse me. So you will find that in the Masoretic text, a lot of the reasons, one of the reasons actually, for why they would conceal something or edit something is to hide the truth, essentially. And what is the truth? Yeshua said himself, I am the truth, to hide him and to hide the truth of what scripture is actually saying. So I'm going to read again 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 19. And he was the only officer which was in the land, trying to hoodwink us and say, Geber. It's the only officer which was in the land. Whereas the Septuagint clearly contradicts what the Masoretic, which came on the scene centuries later. And one officer in the land of Judah. Okay. I'm going to just give you a sneak preview of what I'm going to present in that series, just to whet your appetite, I guess. Okay, here's one. It's not a big one, but Genesis 31:24. Let's just look at that really quick. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but basically what it says is referring to Jacob and Laban, or Lavan, however you want to pronounce his name. And it's the account where I'm not going to go too deep into it. I'm just going to give you a sneak preview of what I'm going to be talking about. So just to see, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to do the series? I was going to write a book on it, but I don't have the resources to do that. And I don't think there's enough time to do that, to release a book and, get that out. I think more people are on YouTube searching for knowledge, or online at least. And YouTube is one of the biggest ways to do that. One of the best efficient ways, and economical too. Excuse me. So 31, verse 24. So let's look at, I want to look at the King James. I'm just going to you know what, let's just do it. I'm just going to do one right now online. So I don't have to do this later. Save myself some time, and save yourself some time too. So Genesis 31. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I don't know if I really need to. It's kind of self-explanatory. So Genesis 31 and verse 24 in the King James, in the Masoretic. Oh, my phone's about to die. It's about to die. That's my own neglect there. I gotta plug this in. Here you go. Okay, right in the nick of time. So we read here in verse 24 in the Masoretic, or the King James Version, which is a translation of the Masoretic. Excuse me. And God, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. All right? Do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. Why? Why wouldn't he speak good to Jacob? It doesn't make any sense. But it says, do not speak to Jacob good or bad. And what did Laban end up doing? He ended up talking to him and saying, if I have the ability to, look, what does Laban say to him? In verse 26, Laban said to Jacob, what have you done, that you have stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth? Basically, I'm going to get to verse 29. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the Elohim of your father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Okay, if Laban obeyed this word, he just broke it, because he spoke to him. He just spoke to him. You're not supposed to speak to him good or bad. Basically, don't speak to him. But he just did. That does not make any logistical sense. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so let's look at the Septuagint. Does it make sense? It says here in verse 24, and Elohim came to Laban the Syrian in sleep by night and said to him, take heed to yourself that you speak not at any time to Jacob evil things. That makes sense. Completely makes sense. Doesn't say good or evil. It says, do not speak to Jacob at any time evil things. And Laban overtook Jacob, okay? And then Laban said, what have you done, right? And then back to 29. And now my hand has power to hurt you. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me yesterday, saying, take heed to yourself that you speak not evil words to Jacob. So did Laban break this? Because he said, my hand has power to hurt you. Is that evil? No, he's telling him that, I could do this. I could do this. And it's not evil. He's saying, this is what I'm capable of. And maybe if he told him what he would do, I mean, he already said, I could hurt you. That's not nice, but it's not the point. I think you need to look into what that means. But the point of this, the difference we're looking at here is that it doesn't say good or evil, it just says evil things. And that changes the rest of the chapter. It changes a lot of things about Elohim, about Laban, about Jacob. It changes this whole story. Just that one word. Look at Genesis. Recall in the Garden of Eden. The devil told Eve. It's not a big difference. Or maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see. You change one word, everything is topsy-turvy, I think. Oh boy, my phone just froze. Am I surprised? No, I'm not. I'm not surprised my phone froze. So it says here, we're going to look at, this isn't a difference, but it could be. It could be a difference. So we're just going to look at it, and then I'm going to close the stream. And this is where the serpent went to Eve and asked her a question. Asked her a big question that changed the course of humanity forever and ever. This one question in Genesis chapter 3, looking at verse 2. Sorry, verse 1. Now the serpent, from the Masoretic, King James. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Jehovah Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, yes, has Elohim said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And then it says here, yes, because. So, right, yes, has God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Remember how that said, yes, has God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? So he's agreeing, saying, yeah, God said this, right? And then, we know Eve's reply. And then she said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it. And then she added to that commandment. So let's look at what the Septuagint says. Just one little change of a word. All right, it says here, now the serpent was the most crafty of all the brutes on the earth. Whoa, that's already different. Was more subtle. But here it says the most crafty of all the brutes on the earth, which Jehovah Elohim made. So there are brutes? What are brutes? Okay. And the serpent said to the woman, wherefore has Elohim said, eat not of every tree of the garden? Do you see the difference there? And the Masoretic is saying, yes, Elohim said this. You shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Question mark. So he's saying, yes, has God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? It sounds like he's In the Masoretic, it sounds like he's saying, yeah, has God said this? Kind of rhetorically. It's like a rhetorical question. Whereas here in the Septuagint says, wherefore has Elohim said, eat not of every tree of the garden? So prove to me. Wherefore, in our modern lingo, is why. So if you let's look at let's just scenario one, okay, Masoretic scenario A. Yes, has God said, do not eat? Or, sorry, let's redo that. Masoretic. Yes, has God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? All right, Septuagint. Why has God said, eat not of every tree of the garden? Why? Whereas here it says, yes. So you take the word yes, you replace, or you take the word why, you replace it with yes. Do you see how it all changes just from that one word? I mean, Satan himself, he changed, you shall not eat of every tree. Or not, that's not what it was. It's where he says, he responds to Eve, excuse me, in verse 4 in Masoretic, and the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. You shall not. So he added the word not. And in the Septuagint, it also says, and the serpent said to the woman, you shall not surely die. So that lines up. That's a big one. How can you not line that up? But at the same time, here in the Septuagint, it says, why has Elohim said, eat not of every tree of the garden? Why? Just like he challenged him, his authority, and was kicked out of heaven, promptly kicked out. Kicked out of the kingdom of heaven, I must add. And here he says, yes, as God said. So if you believe that he exists, and I'm not going to pretend he doesn't, Satan, the devil, the enemy, exists. He's very real. The spirit world is very real. Evil spirits are very real. They have power, limited power. They can only do as much as Yah allows them to. Now, where I'm going with this is this. The Septuagint, let's go back even before that. The Hebrew scriptures, as was transmitted from Elohim, from Jehovah, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, however you want to call him, from our Creator to the prophets, and preserved in Hebrew, because it was originally written in Hebrew, was spoken in Hebrew, was 100% unadulterated, the pure word of Elohim. No doubt, no argument about that, undisputedly. And then you translate that Hebrew into the Greek, 400 years before Mashiach, before Christ. I would argue that that's as close as possible. That's like 99.9%. Maybe it's 100%. I can't say. I can't say it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Because when you translate anything from one language to another, you lose something in the translation. There's something lost in translation that cannot be translated. There are idioms that cannot be faithfully translated and faithfully understood, or easily understood, or rightfully understood in a way that it just misses something. There's something in that language that cannot be captured. It cannot be bottled up and repackaged in the same way that it's taken in the original Hebrew. Otherwise, what's the point of languages? It confused people. The point of when Elohim created languages during the account of the Tower of Babel, it was to confuse the people. So English, Hebrew to English, there's going to be some slight confusion here and there, but I'm going to just go out on a whim and say it's 99% the pure word of God. There's going to be some discrepancies and 1% that 1% that's lacking is just because when you go from one language to another, there's going to be something that is lost in translation. So that's the 1%. But when you take the Masoretic, when you look at that, how much percent is that still the pure word of Elohim? They've taken things out. We've just proven, looking at 3 Kings chapter 4, verse 19. We looked here in Genesis 31, verse 24. We looked here even just in this account. It was impromptu. I didn't plan. It wasn't something I wanted to look at. But I guess that's what I was led to look at. The Spirit led me to look at that and to present that to you. When you change a word like yes into the word why, if I ask a child, say I had a kid, and I said, hey, son, I want you to go and buy some bread for us because Sabbath is approaching. You know, it's Thursday. Get some bread so we don't need to, break the Sabbath. We shouldn't go and buy food in the Sabbath. That's what the preparation day is for. And he says, yes, I'll do that. I will do what you said, yes. Versus me asking him, son, go buy some bread on this Thursday. Sabbath is approaching. You'll say, why? I'll do what you said. Why? Why? It's a whole different, do you see how it changes things like that? Just, anyhow. So again, I thank you all for watching Shabbat Shalom. It is Shabbat where I am. And even across the globe, it is actually still Shabbat. I think it's 4 on the other side of the hemisphere. It would be 4 p.m. So I think sunset is still not arrived there. So it's Shabbat around the planet right now, which is, excuse me, which is really, it's a great blessing when we're all lined up on the same day. We're all in holy time. Because when is the sunrise in that area? Sunset here would be around 5:30. So over there, sunrise would be, sunset for them would be maybe 6 p.m. just to be safe, around 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. So once we get to 6:30 a.m., no, wait a minute, they're ahead by 12 hours. So once they get to 6:30 p.m. at sunset, sunset would be 6:30 a.m. for them, but that's sunset of the next day, right? No, so 6:30 a.m. for us would be 6:30 p.m. Of Saturday. So that's the end of Shabbat for them. So 6:30 p.m. for us, or for where I am, is the beginning of Shabbat. For them, 6:30 a.m. They're already been in Shabbat for 12 hours. So it's once we reach Shabbat on this side of the globe, the western side, once we reach Shabbat, then we're all in Shabbat time. And that ends within a 12-hour. For 12 hours, we have the time where it's holy time throughout the whole planet, essentially. So I think I don't know what the point of that is, but that's quite interesting. It's an interesting point. So does that mean that Yehoshua, if he comes back, or when he comes back on Yom Teruah, it's going to be Yom Teruah throughout the globe? Is that what it means? I mean, why would he come back on Yom Teruah in Japan and Philippines and not come back? Because when he comes back, it's the whole earth, right? So what I'm trying to say is, when it's 6:30 p.m. here, because you can't see the new moon, you can't sight the moon unless it's somewhat dark. So you have a time frame as to when you can see that. So let's say it's between, just for sake of argument, let's give a good time frame of 3 p.m. to as late as 7 p.m. Okay, you take that time, you will sight the new moon anytime between 3 to 7 p.m. But over there would be 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., and that would still be Yom Teruah. So most likely, I'm just saying that it would most likely be the day and hour he would come. Yeah, Yom Teruah, we know that. But the hour he would come would be anytime between the sun setting to twilight in this hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere. In the Eastern Hemisphere, it would already be the morning. So to them, it's going to be like a complete thief in the night. Take them in their sleep pretty much, like when he arrives, but they'll wake up. Whereas here, we're going to be awake physically, but asleep spiritually. Because I find that those in the East, specifically the Philippines, they're so zealous for the Torah. Like they're really on fire for this way of life. I don't know if that's just a superficial thing, but I can feel that. I can feel that excitement, that joy that even kids feel when they're doing something they really enjoy. They don't fake it. They actually, it's so hard to, kids don't really fake when they're having fun most of the time. So they're going to be asleep physically, but spiritually they're going to wake up. They're going to be ready to just, be ready when he arrives. So anyway, that's just conjecture on my part, speculation. So again, I thank you for watching. So that's a preview. It's a sneak preview of what I plan to be doing, discussing the differences between the Septuagint, or the Word of God, in the Septuagint, and even in the Brentons, the Westcott and Hort English translation of the New Testament, which is, after learning about the Septuagint, right away I looked up, okay, what if there's a Septuagint, the oldest preserved translation of the Hebrew scriptures, what would be the Greek equivalent of that? And the answer was this, from my research. It was the Westcott and Hort, which is the oldest Greek manuscript, excuse me, that exists of the Greek scriptures. So I went to look for that, Westcott and Hort, and I arrived at, I found many copies of that, but little did I know the Westcott and Hort text is all in Greek. It's fully Greek. I thought it was English, because Westcott and Hort, they sound like English people. But Westcott and Hort is basically Greek. It's a Greek. It's like the Septuagint. It's all in Greek, but unless you translate that text into English, it's going to remain Greek. So, Yah led me to find this Bible, which is called the 20th Century New Testament. It is published by Fleming H. Ravel. So I do encourage you to look for that on eBay or Amazon or online. See if you can find a copy for yourself. It's not easy to find. This was the last and only copy I know of. But, this was mass-produced at one point. And the publishing year, I have it here. It was published in 1904. This is 116 years old. Right there, published, the years it was published. So I strongly urge those who love the Word of God to definitely get a copy of Brenton Septuagint. Just ignore the cross there, but Brenton Septuagint. and the Westcott and Hort English version, also known as the 20th century New Testament. There might be other ones that have been translated to English from the Westcott and Hort. I do not know, but that's the one I found, or I was led to find. So again, to be honest with you, my life before doing these live streams relating to what's in the Bible, the truth of the Bible, is just a bunch of foolishness. Not that I'll ever post a video on hockey ever again. That's not the point. It's just, I remember posting a lot of foolishness online, just, trying to be funny. Reaction videos, just, you see what's on YouTube. Dancing videos, pranks, entertainment, sports. And, those things have their place, but in the great scheme of things, they don't really matter. Especially in light of what's happening around the world. Luke 21:11, basically what the headlines are reading, like great earthquakes, rumors of wars, pestilences, famines, amazing signs in the heavens. When we see those things coming or happening, everything just seems unimportant. Everything meaning like our leisures, our pleasures, things we think are important, like sports and entertainment, and things that are not really important. And then God puts them in their place. Elohim puts them in the rightful place. That, not that they're completely unimportant, but they're not important in the scheme of things compared to the Word of God, because that should be number one. He is our Elohim. He should be number one at all times and take first priority, where those things are still a priority, but they're not first priority. They're more of a, you watch something like a comedy. Comedy is great. It boosts the immune system when you laugh. God created humor, but just not, the lewd humor. But it's been such a blessing to be able to do this. I know that these videos will not be up forever. I know YouTube will eventually shut down, either by them shutting me down or putting up more restrictions, maybe putting up a paywall for people who want to publish videos. They might put up a paywall saying, if you want to post videos, you have to pay a subscription fee. And they're already doing this for people who want to watch their own original programming, those who want to save videos, pay a monthly subscription. So I can very much see that they would implement that, because, corporations love to make money, to have profit. And would I pay for that? Yeah, I certainly would. You hearing me, YouTube? So if they started, pay $1 a month, let's just say they did that for everybody who wants to be producers and to publish videos, and you have at least 1 million people who are content providers. I'm going to go as far as say 100 million. There's at least 100 million people who actively post videos, hundreds of millions of people. But once they add that paywall and say, okay, $1, it's reasonable. I don't think $1 is too much money a month, $1 a month. So $12 a year. You can pay a $12 annual subscription to post, just for posting. They would make a lot of money just right then and there, and their stock would shoot up. But at the same time, with that, if they introduce that, I'm not trying to talk about money in the Shabbat. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to say is, if they do enforce a paywall or introduce one, would that include certain limitations to people such as myself? Like, they might impose restrictions such as do not talk about religion, do not talk about conspiracy theories, do not be critical thinkers, essentially. Do not question what the mainstream media is pushing. Do not question reality or our version of reality. Do not question us, YouTube. If you criticize the government, You will be banned. You will be removed. You will have your posting privileges revoked altogether, even if you are paying. We don't care if you pay. We're going to remove you. We're going to censor you. And they're already censoring a lot of people, especially conservative people, especially Christian channels who support Christian values. Those are being shadow banned. They're being hidden from search results. Just a lot of nefarious doings. They're doing a lot of things that are just really questionable and very, it's unfair. They're unfair practices that they're doing, just not overtly. They're doing it subtly. So that's all I have to say about that. I didn't want to go on for this long, so what I'm gonna do now. I still have enough energy to go through a chapter. I'm gonna read a chapter and then post a chapter summary on chapter 20, and then if I probably won't have energy after that, but I'm just trying to drain myself of the energy I have now, and then go have a little bit more sleep. And yeah, that's about it. That's the plan for now. So expect that video within, I'd say, within the next 2 hours at the most, or 4 hours. Make it 4 hours. In the next 4 hours at the most, at the earliest in the next hour. Okay. Right. Thank you. I appreciate all your input today, and for sticking with the stream, and for those who are going to watch this in the future. May God bless you and protect you, and Shabbat Shalom, ever Shalom, if you're watching during the normal week.